Okay, so have you ever been there? You're staring at like a blank screen, you know exactly what you need to do, but there's this massive pull towards, well, honestly, literally anything else. That feeling, it's so frustrating, right? Procrastination, we all know it. But like, why do we put off stuff we know matters? Why is just starting sometimes the hardest part? Is it just, laziness? Or is something deeper going on? Today, we're really diving into that, into the real nature of procrastination. We want to look at the science, the feelings behind it. Our mission here is to unpack it all and hopefully give you some insights and maybe even strategies that actually work. We've dug into some great material for this. It's from A Ciencia da Procrastinação, Quebrando Isclo, and also insights from a podcast called The Science Behind Procrastination.
Yeah, and what's really interesting right off the bat is how people usually frame this. They immediately think, oh, I need better time management skills. Like it's about discipline or planners or something. But the sources we looked at, they pretty much throw that out the window. They argue it's not really about time at all. At its core, procrastination. It's about emotion, managing your feelings.
Emotion regulation, not time management.
Exactly. It's less about avoiding the actual task, say, writing that report, and more about avoiding the feelings the task stirs up. Think about it, anxiety, maybe boredom, that fear of failing or just feeling inadequate. These are uncomfortable, right? And
Your brain
are basically wired to dodge discomfort. So what happens?
You check your phone.
Right. Check the phone, scroll social media, suddenly decide the kitchen really needs a deep clean, anything but the main thing.
Oh, I know that sudden urge to alphabetize the spice rack when a deadline looms. Definitely been there.
We all have.
So, okay, it's about feelings, not time. That's a huge shift. But what's actually, happening inside our heads then? What's the brain science behind wanting to avoid those feelings so badly?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a neurological piece to this. Our sources explain it as basically a battle inside your brain between two key players. You've got the limbic system, that's kind of your emotional, more primitive brain part. It wants pleasure, it wants comfort. Now, avoid pain.
Instant gratification. Got it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then there's the prefrontal cortex. That's your inner planner, the rational part that understands long-term goals, consequences, the grown-up in the room. When you procrastinate, it's basically the limbic system winning that fight. Yeah. It overrides the rational plan because it wants that short-term relief from the bad feeling.
Wow. So your brain is basically choosing immediate comfort even though it knows rationally it'll cause problems later.
Exactly.
And this is where it gets, well, kind of wild, right? Because the sources point out this really ironic twist. The more you put things off to avoid feeling bad, the worse you actually end up feeling. That guilt. The stress, it just builds, which then makes you want to avoid the task even more. It's this loop. Guilt, stress, more avoidance, more scrolling.
Precisely. It's a self-sabotaging cycle. Your brain thinks it's protecting you from discomfort, but it just digs a deeper hole.
Yeah, you can really see how that pattern takes hold. So this brain battle, it creates this cycle, and the sources actually map it out, right? This procrastination loop.
They do. And it's probably going to sound pretty familiar to a lot of people listening. It usually goes something like this, in about 6 steps. 1, you're faced with a task you need to do.
Okay, standard start.
2, you start feeling that discomfort we mentioned, boredom, fear. Maybe it just feels too big, overwhelming.
Yep, that resistance kicks in.
3, you give in to the urge to avoid. You do something else instead to get rid of that uncomfortable feeling. 4, temporary relief, but it doesn't last. It's quickly followed by, guilt or anxiety.
The dread starts creeping back.
5, time keeps ticking. The deadline gets closer. The task feels even more urgent now, more pressure. And 6, the anxiety ramps up. This either leads to a mad dash to finish it at the last minute, stressed out, or sometimes just more avoidance, pushing it off again.
Oof, that cycle is painfully recognizable.
But here's the key takeaway from understanding that loop. It doesn't mean you're lazy or broken. It just means your brain is doing what it's wired to do, survive emotionally. It's just that, that wiring isn't always helpful for productivity in the modern world.
That reframing is so important. It's not a character flaw. Okay, so if it's our emotional survival instinct kicking in, how do we, work with that? How do we break the cycle? Because just telling yourself, be more disciplined, clearly doesn't work if your limbic system is freaking out. Our sources must offer some strategies, right? It can't just be about understanding the problem.
Absolutely. And that's the hopeful part. The research points towards solutions that are less about brute force and more about self-compassion, actually, combined with smart strategy.
Compassion and strategy. I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So the sources outline 5 practical things you can try. First one, shrink the task. Break
Yeah.
it down into almost ridiculously small pieces. Like if write the report feels huge, make the first step open the document or write one sentence.
Make it so small it feels silly not to do it.
Exactly. Lowers that initial barrier, makes it less likely to trigger the panic button in your brain. Second strategy, pair action with emotion. This means pausing and actually asking yourself, okay, what am I feeling right now that's making me want to avoid this?
Acknowledge the feeling instead of just reacting to it.
Right. Name it. Anxiety, boredom, fear. They use the phrase, name it to tame it. Just identifying the emotion can take away some of its power. It puts you back in the driver's seat a little.
Okay, name it to tame it. That's memorable. What's next?
Third, use a timer. The Pomodoro technique is a classic example. You commit to just 25 minutes of focused work. That's it. You get a 5-minute break. The key is the commitment is short. It's not, I have to finish this whole thing. It's, I just have to focus for 25 minutes. Makes it way less daunting.
Tricks your brain into starting because the end is already in sight. Smart.
Fourth strategy, change your environment. Basically, make it easier to do the task and harder to get distracted.
Like putting your phone in another room.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
cleaning off your desk. Removing those triggers for avoidance. Set yourself up for success by tweaking your surroundings. Sometimes just the act of creating a dedicated workspace can shift your mindset.
Makes sense. Remove the friction to starting. Okay, and the last one.
Fifth, reward progress, not perfection. This is crucial. Celebrate the small wins. Did you do your 25 minutes? Great. Acknowledge it. Did you write that one sentence? Awesome. These little bits of positive reinforcement help retrain your brain. They build momentum and start associating the task, or at least starting the task, with something good, not just dread.
So it's about building a new pattern, rewarding the effort.
Precisely. It's about reshaping that relationship with the task and the feelings it brings up. So, yeah, to kind of wrap up the main idea, procrastination isn't some deep character flaw you need to beat out of yourself. It's more like a coping mechanism your brain uses for discomfort. Often that discomfort is rooted in things like fear or pressure, maybe perfectionism. And the big shift really is moving from just thinking about productivity to becoming more aware of those underlying emotions.
That feels much more manageable and kinder, honestly. It's
Yeah.
not about being weak. It's about understanding how your brain is trying to protect you, even if it's clumsy about it. So the takeaway seems to be start with some self-compassion, add a little structure like breaking things down or using a timer, and then just take that first tiny step, the absolute smallest one you can think of. Because as the sources suggest, progress doesn't really wait for perfect conditions or for you to suddenly feel motivated. It comes from starting, from just moving forward, even when it feels messy or uncomfortable. That's something to really think about.